All right, guys, we've been chopping it up already, but today's video, we have Brooke. You guys have seen his ads. I know you've seen his ads. He absolutely crushes. Keep these light. Today's day 70 in a row of making videos where before I was spewing, now I'm talking to cool people now that I met from spewing. So kick it off. Who are you? What's the quick/long elevator?
Yeah, my name is Brooke Hiddink. So I'm born and raised in Canada. Growing up, played a lot of hockey. Ended up going to law school after hockey. Did the whole law school thing. I ended up dropping out of my third year to do like a high-ticket dropshipping store. So literally like 3 months before graduation, much to my parents' dismay, I dropped out. By that point, I was making more. When I dropped it, I was making more from my e-commerce store than I was going to make as a lawyer. So I had a strong case. So dropped out, ran that store for the next 18 months. I think between 18 months and 2 years after I started, everything was going very well. I joined essentially a program to start posting content online just because I didn't have any social media at all. Like I had an Instagram with like 2 posts on it. So I started posting a bit about like what I was doing, had a bunch of people DM me, and that essentially led to indirectly, like it wasn't intentional at the time, I started doing one-on-one consulting with people for e-commerce, and then that kind of led into launching the offer, which we launched in late 2022, which is like a high-ticket e-commerce coaching offer. And we've been running that ever since, and it's been pretty consistent growth since then. So it's coming up on 2.5 years now we've had that.
Nice. And you said Dubai now?
Yeah, Dubai. So moved to Dubai in, yeah, it would have been right around when we launched the coaching offer. So late 2022. I actually just, when I moved to Dubai, I just came with a carry-on bag, like 3 pairs of pants, a couple shirts, and a carry-on bag. And I thought like, you know what, I'll try it. Worst case, I don't like it. Came and really liked it actually. So I didn't really know what to expect, but really liked it. And then just have never really left since. So obviously I leave in the summer,
Yeah.
but call it home now.
Yeah, very cool. That's what I did with Puerto Rico. I have a picture of me, and it's literally, or one of my buddies dropped me off at the airport, and I have the monitor, my laptop monitor, or like laptop and
Yeah.
monitor in one, and then a duffel bag that had like same thing, like 6 t-shirts and 4 pairs of shorts. Yeah, it's hilarious. Okay, so the ecom business when it starts. So what is that? What do those even look like? I mean, I see your ads again. I know everyone sees your ads. So it's high ticket e-commerce, but is it like branded? Is it one niche? Are they multi-niche? Like what do most people do with this? Or what was yours, I guess?
Yeah, so mine was very broad. So essentially, like I had a home goods store. That was the first store I launched. Where essentially, like what you're doing is you're technically like dropshipping is just a fulfillment model, right? Like you don't have your products in your own warehouse. So rather than going to like AliExpress or Alibaba or any of these like Spocket, whatever the other ones are, you call like US brands. So like let's say if you go to Home Depot, there might be like 10 grill or barbecue brands there. So you can essentially just call those brands up and say, hey, I want to list your products on my website. I'm not going to stock inventory, but I'll run ads and bring you sales. So essentially they don't have any risk. Like the worst case scenario is if you shut down your store and you had like outstanding orders. Like that's really the only risk to these brands. So as long as you seem somewhat legit, you can give them the good value proposition. You seem like you know what you're talking about. They'll let you list their products in your store. You can run ads to them, and then they usually give you between like 20 and 50% profit margins depending on the brand. So a lot of the stores that do well, like I think that was one of the mistakes I made is early on, I had just like a very broad store, but a lot of the ones that do the best are like very niche, like golf or cooking or like saunas do very well.
Yeah.
Like that was my best product with saunas. So
Yeah.
I find that the more niche you are, the stronger brand you can have. And then the brand actually allows you to do really well with SEO, gives you more longevity. And a lot of the ones that end up exiting and building enterprise value are like that, a little bit more narrow.
Yeah. So how do you do it though because aren't those branded products already as an
Yeah.
example? So like, aren't you like, you're a brand, so you're a brand of like a home good, whatever, on top of then these other brands. So like, why are they not going direct to those?
Yeah. So it's like, it's very similar to like Walmart. Like Walmart is a brand, but you don't buy Walmart products really, right?
Yeah.
Like, or same with Home Depot. So it's like that. But the reason that like a lot of these brands don't understand online marketing at all. So like for example, if I was to start my own grill brand today, and I didn't know what I was doing with marketing, if I just give my products to like 50 of these online retailers, they'll just like bring me sales without me really having to
Yeah.
spend $1 on ads.
Got it.
So I
Okay.
think it's just like a distribution play.
Yeah, it's
Like,
exactly the
yeah,
distribution play. It's like
yeah.
an affiliate or whatever, a lead flow. Yeah, that's interesting. Okay, so now your business model on top of that. So you ran that for X amount of time, crushed it, made your millions, and then went into info of teaching it, and then there's a software play. Like, what's the offer stack of what you currently run for your biz now?
Yeah, so it's essentially there's The easiest way to explain it is there's one offer with different levels of access. We have like course only, group coaching and community, one-on-one coaching, hybrid done for you, and done for you. So it starts at like 500
really?
and goes all the way to like 25K. So we have all the different levels within that one offer. And then, yeah, I'm not sure if you, a couple years ago, did you read like Lynchpin when it came out from Russell Brunson?
Yep.
So yeah, I read that, made a lot of sense to me. So that's what led to us actually creating our software. Software does well, like it does like 6 figures a month. Don't really think about it. But the problem, the mistake I made with that software was the only customers are people who come through our offer. So it never had like something like a high ROAS where it could expand beyond the program. But it's a nice income stream, but it's not ever going to be like a big exit value or enterprise play. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, for sure. Yeah. 'Cause we talk about that with like an example for us is supplements of that. It's like you can either build supplements that are, your protein, your this, your that, for your customers only, or you can build them where it can be direct to consumer, like outside of that. So you could run ads to it directly. Same thing for you. Is like, could you run ads direct to that software and sell it versus does it have to come through someone who's already a client? And like for us, or for I guess any of these things, it has to have like the unique proposition. It has to have like its own standalone branding. It has to have its own thing to do that. And that's why we haven't touched it. It's like it's its whole own beast that we don't want to do. We have been dumb and not done. Like you just said, you make, another 6 figures a month just off that, let's say. Like we could do that with supplements internal, not having it its whole own thing. And like we haven't even done that. So like just dumb. It's just like an LTV mishap, leaky bucket situation. But that's interesting. So for the levels of access, how I've tried to, all these are different by the way. So like who listens to this, there's always going to be the 0 to 10K or right, like crew that's just trying to understand. And like, but a lot of the people, at least in DM, I mean, we got connected from me posting stuff, you then, right? Like a lot of them, high hundreds of them are 6 figure something a month or a 7 figure a month, which is amazing, right? Yeah. So it's like the crew is there. So I'm trying to navigate how to like have these are, I mean, I openly, show the behind the scenes here of like, we're just navigating how to figure this out. But I'm trying to look at monetization models. We're trying to look at fulfillment models. We're trying to look at acquisition models. We're trying to look at, is this exit? Is this cash flow? Like, what are these? So far you have the different offers that are there. How does that work for fulfillment for you? So like, obviously a course is a course with the lower one, but when it gets to group coaching, one-to-one done for you, like what is the fulfillment model of how you do that?
Yeah. So the group coaching is, we use Kajabi for our course hosting, and Kajabi we also use the Kajabi communities feature. If you ever seen that?
Do you?
Yeah. Just to have everything. Like a lot of our clients are not tech savvy.
Yeah.
So we didn't always do that, but we didn't want to give people like 8 logins. So we just give them one login. Like you get your course, your community coaching calls, everything in one login, just to simplify things. So that one we have like 10 group coaching calls a week, and they're all on various topics. So we have like a business setup call with doula, which is like a business setup company. So it's like a guest who comes in and runs that call. We have like
partnership money, monetization model.
Yeah, an SEO call, Google Ads, like all these different sub branches of e-commerce is like an expert call on. And then they have the community, the programs, and then like a bunch of bonuses. The one-on-one coaching is the exact same thing as that. You get all that. All the offers are like you get everything in the one below it plus, you know what I mean? So one-on-one, you get all that plus you get access to a Slack channel with a one-on-one coach, and you can have like one-on-one calls for things like choosing your product, reviewing your ads, that sort of thing. And then hybrid done for you is everything above it. Plus we actually pick their product. We give them a list of pre-vetted suppliers from the contact, and we build version 1 of their Shopify store. And then the highest tier is we set up their business, choose their product, close their first suite suppliers for them, get 20 products live on their website, and run their ads for them until they make their first sale for over $1,000. So once we make that first sale, the expectation is they're going through the program that whole time, learning everything. And then once we make the sale, there's like a 2 to 3 week transition period where we're like handing the business off to them. So it's like a done for you thing until they get their first sale. And then essentially to prove the concept, they have a business generating revenue. And then we go through transition where they sort of take it over at that point. And then they go back to the normal one-on-one.
Yeah. So that's pretty lean team though, right? For a fulfillment side?
Yeah. I think we have like 8 one-on-one coaches, and then just like a lot of the coaching calls are guests, and we have like 3 customer support. But yeah, on the fulfillment side, we are pretty lean.
Yeah, that's nice. That's very. I mean, yeah, we have
how many you guys have with your offer?
70 something.
70.
Yeah, it's one-to-one coaches. I mean, we have 4,000 active right now, and we've had upwards of higher when we were, acquisition broke. So it's like a tail end thing. Now it's doing this again. Like,
Do you guys like
But
when someone joins your offer, do you guarantee them a set amount of calls? Is that why you have to have so many?
yeah, it's
Or,
1-to-1 for a year. So you have like a structure that's basically like there are group aspects. There's like entire community layer. There's basically cohort based, so like the group coaching style where it's all of them, and then they have a 1-to-1 touch point, and then the entirety of the thing they have the 1-to-1 messaging, and it's customized for them. It's not like out of the box. So you like in our example, you have X amount of call it body types, you have X amount of like where you're currently at in your age, hormonal, whatever, and then
yeah.
you have X amount of desired outcome or goal. Someone wants to build, someone wants to shed, so like these different things. You layer those across, and you have 32 whatever options, let's say, of where they could go. So it's personalization, still standardized kind of, and like across the methodology, but it's unique. And there are things that come up in the personal lives and whatever. So that our stack right now is 1-to-1. Now we're rolling out basically multi-year 1-to-1 continuation because it gets the best results. It gets insane results. Like the client wins channels. Like, but the fulfillment model is sub 20, but like percent of new cash, call it. Like it's because we try to stay within the Hormozy numbers, and like that backs out to a coach making like a healthy income, like in comparison to market, like all that stuff. Because we do everything except they just have to coach. So we client link flow. Yeah.
Are all your coaches like previous students?
No, coaches
No.
are not. No. So for the longest time, all of our sales reps were like client success stories, right? Like people who came from there. So they'd come from the community. And now we don't do that, but we had that for a long time. Some of the core people on the team came from being customers, but coaches, no, they come like full vetted, have to have 5 to 7 years experience in the space of like remote coaching. They have to have XYZ certification, like all that stuff, which is not a customer. The customer is never going to, or very rarely going to have that.
That makes sense. So they're like legit personal trainers then. At
Yes.
that point, yeah, that makes sense.
Exactly. Just fully remote. And instead of having to do any of the stuff, be on floor, do all the front end and back end that you have to do when you're a legit, like in-person personal trainer, it's all remote coaching only. That's like all they have to do. It's just that. So that's why the arbitrage is kind of there. But yeah, and we stack them up. I mean, but they can only take whatever high teens, not 3 figures, but they can take a high level of clients on an active roster, and they're all getting the same thing. They're all doing 1 year of coaching. So there's like the programming you can align because it's all of that. A big thing that we have not done, because all we've sold on the back end is just a continuation of the same thing. It hasn't really been framed as like they're getting their service contract for the year, but it's not really framed as like this is like a 3 to 5 year thing, even though the entire methodology is already around. This is like a lifelong thing. But it's like, are you going to pay for a coach forever? Or like, do you really just need your coach for year one? And then you're supposed to like go off and do this on your own now that you've learned the 80-20. You might not have the accountability. You might not have the new phasing in person. Like, in our example, if it's like a hormonal shift, or if now you're post and before you were pre, or like something in that example of menopause, like it changes a lot. It changes like how the nutrition is. It changes how the exercise portion is. It changes these pieces. And if you don't have coach or access to personalization, and we haven't done a good enough job of like highlighting that, and that's direct correlate to LTV. So now we're going to have, as of 2 days ago, Monday, we're rolling out like a downsell continuity.
Nice.
That's $360 a month, or like an extension of a year. That's like a lifer program. So it's group. So our cost to fulfill on it is marginal in comparison, because it's not 1-to-1 anymore. It's like one, cohort based. So but you have to go through the 1-to-1 first.
So I would go through my 1 year with the 1-to-1, and then I would go on to this continuity offer that's $360 a month, and it's like a group coaching thing.
Correct. You would,
nice.
Yeah, exactly. So then the cohorts can be more dialed in around, like everyone comes with more experience and having done it for a year. They did all the, deep work per se with the personalization. And then, so you're basically offered, you can do that. You can either continue, and we're going to do different options there where it's multi-year or just a continuation for another year, either with that same coach or another coach if you want to mix, because that's the other like kind of cool part is it's all standardized, it's all around the methodology, it's all around the same thing. But like one of them is vegan, or 2 of them are vegan. Like someone else is like, more into running for like because they want to, not because it's like part of the plan, but like because they're a marathon runner, and like they have different goals. There's stage ready ones. There are women who are 50, 60 that want to like do like stage competition and get like shredded,
yeah.
Not just like, so there's different pockets of that. So sometimes they want to move coaches. That's a multi-year style thing. And then this one is like the forever play. This is you're a lifer. You want to stay in it. It's 360. It's the name of the program. It's the name of it's the price. It's like it's the all encompassing lifelong thing with guests that come in, with your access to the personalization when you want it through group, and then the community of people that are all living the same vibe, the same life. And then the next play is to roll in the subs and do all that kind of stuff in the correct way. So like we're so big on brand that we haven't done that. That's why I said that earlier, is like, it's just, people in supplements who it costs. Yeah. They make, 90x on it. And it's just, that's not our play. It never has been. We tried the partnership model. The math didn't work, the math kind of didn't work because of how their operations, it wasn't as like direct response or like conversion focus is a better way, not direct response, conversion focus. So we just bled, and it just like how the pass off was wrong, but like we're going to do that. And that'll be a big one. So
I think it'll crush. Yeah. Especially because like especially in fitness, like even myself, I know exactly what to do, but it's just like, if it's not at top of mind, it'll just like naturally slip. It's not like a knowledge thing a lot of the time. It's like everything else except knowledge is the most important part. Like being in a group.
It's on YouTube. Yeah. Everything is on YouTube. In almost anything we're talking about like is on YouTube, and it's like it's the 2% layer that's personalization that has the 10 output. That's why that's kind of the goal of these, is like if someone who's doing 6 something figures a month, like is in that range, and they hear something that is a 2, a 3, a 5, a 10% change that they make, like for a show rate or for lead flow or for partnership on the back or monetization model, it's like, that's sizable. That is very sizable. Like I heard something on one of them.
I think something's even more than that. Like small things that like once you start scaling and becoming pretty optimized, it's like the tiniest things that make the biggest difference. It's just like one line in a YouTube video or something super small.
Yeah, no, that's how we've learned everything throughout this. And like just doing the videos, I've noticed I have like my thinking has become more like articulate in like how I'm exactly, because you kind of flip into that like teacher model of things a little bit, and like you have to understand it well enough to teach it. Yeah. So it's like I'm like re-going through my math, and I'm like, is that right? I'm like, oh yeah, cool. Like I kind of operated from like a napkin of that. Now it's in a sheet, and I'm like looking at it, I'm like, yeah, and this exact number is this. I'm like, interesting. How can I pull it down over here by 2 or 3% now that I've like explained it? So. But that's enough about me. That's enough. Everyone yells at me that I talk too much, so I'm trying to keep interviewing. But so for the goal of this, so you guys are doing, you don't have to say exact numbers or exact whatever, but you're doing millions a month.
Yeah, we're doing about between 2.5 and 3 right now.
Yeah, and this is all-time high right now?
Yeah. So last month was all-time high, and
that's amazing.
Yeah,
that's hilarious because we talked whatever that was 3 months ago, and you guys were like shifting. I want to talk about that, the marketing, the structure of how you guys are doing the inflow now, how it changed, because you guys are doing direct to cart.
We were doing direct to call. So it sounds like we're doing similar to you. So we had like one VSL funnel at one price for like 2 years, no other offer. And that's like all we did. And then like launching this new front end is sort of what helped us double pretty quickly.
And the new front end is direct to cart?
It's the webinar, automated webinar, direct to cart.
So it's like twofold. So it's like the actual marketing method, right? Because it's like VSL versus webinar versus challenge. You have all those like styles. Then the first offer being direct to cart versus direct to call. Like the efficiency goes to this, right? Because you don't have to use people essentially. You don't have to have sales team and like the flow and then the multiple touch points. So you're selling something direct to cart that's 1,000, 2,000. Range?
Yeah, so it's a $995 offer, and then we have a bump on checkout that makes it $1,990. So buyers are split between about 50-50 between those. And then the goal is as soon as they buy, we want to upgrade them to one of those one-on-one hybrid or done for you options.
Are you guys profitable in the front?
Just like break even.
Yeah, it's amazing. That's amazing. Yeah, ours is like, I was talking to Josh about this. Like, I don't know the quick liquidation percentage math off the top of my head still. Like, I know the net CPA number like that of yesterday of trailing, but like for that is. But our economics break out because our ascension rate is like solid, right? So even though we lose, we only liquidate, let's just say 50%. Like the economics back out. But when you're fully liquidating, your ascension rate, obviously it's important, but it's like not as. Do you already? How long has this been running?
We launched it March 22nd, so 2 months.
Okay, so do you have like time to ascension and like rough percentages off the top that you know?
Yeah, it's usually about 4 to 5 days to upgrade.
Oh wow, that's great. Okay.
The 1990 buyers, so the people who buy the bump ascend at like a 55% clip, very high, and then the people who only buy the 995 are like 20 to 25%. So it's been something I've been thinking about is like, do I raise the price so it's just make it one price, 1990? Or do we just optimize the pixel for the 1990 buyers because they're upgrading at like almost triple the rate is the 995 buyers?
Yeah, I would for sure. I would do that. Yeah. I would optimize for that.
The one thing, so like your low ticket funnel, right? Like what's your front end price right now?
Sub 50.
So I wonder, like,
With no order bumps, because back to the brand quality thing, in 2 seconds I could throw on like, you know, 3 more PDFs and 2 of these and whatever. And like, we won't do that. We just won't, we're just not those people who want to just do it to do it. And like, maybe that's a limiting belief, but so we're having them built out. We have like the content being produced. We have that done. Now it needs to be edited. It needs to be put in another Kajabi product. It needs to be designed, like all of this stuff, just so we can add a couple order bumps. But again, ours is full ascension focus. So like, you're selling something for 1,000 to 2,000, like, you know, in that range for direct to cart. Ours fully baked is going to be, you know, $40 to $90 maybe, just from the order bumps. And then right after is like, now book your quick start guide, do that. And is that how your guys' framing is?
Essentially, we have an SDR call them, welcome to the program, make sure they can actually access everything okay. They essentially assess interest in a one-on-one coach. Usually people say like they want to hear more about it, and then we'll book them in.
Yeah. The framing on ours has come, go ahead.
So if you spend 10K, let's say, just for simplicity's sake, how many calls will that get you on?
Oh boy.
Because like the issue with ours is like, I guess I don't know if it's an issue, but if I spend 10K, our AOV is about 1,500. So for every 10K I spend, it only ends up being 6 to 7 calls. So it's super lean. So if we spend 30K a day, it's like 20 calls, like 3 closers.
Yeah.
So like, that's what I'm wondering, like with yours.
But it's so efficient. But it's so efficient because like and I was talking about this on another one, and it's, so quick math, let's say it's a 3%, or let's use 5, it's easy. So like 5% ascension rate. If my target is 30 units a day at back end, it's like you need 600 low ticket on average a day, or for direct to cart or whatever you want to call it, right? Like, which is crazy.
But what would your goal return on ad spend target be on that? Because I feel like with the efficiency of our funnel, we're leaving a lot on the table. Like I don't see us really getting the return on ad spend above 2.5.
Oh no, yeah, we're above that.
Exactly. So it's like,
how does that work then? Wait, so if you're breaking even there, let's say you're breaking even on direct to cart, you're spending 100 grand, you're making 100 grand there, and then you're saying
70 buyers. So it's about 70 buyers, and then whatever the actual upgrade percentage between the two price works out to, like, let's call it 30%. 30% of 70 would be what? Like 20 to 25 at 5,800. It ends up being like another 150 grand.
So I get what you're saying. So you're saying you're spending 100 to make 250 or whatever in that math.
Exactly. So like on our VSL funnel, we're at like a 4 or a 5. So the profitability is way more, but it's just like the new funnel is just way easier to run and way more scalable. But it's more like a play of, would you rather make 40% margins on $1 million a month or 28% margins on $5 million a month?
Yeah, well, that's why. So that's what we're doing. That's what I joke, like the value vortex system that my CMO claimed, you know, VVS, that's him, that's not me. But he is like, yeah, you run multiple. So the idea of the running the VSL funnel is it's ready for the top 3% of people who are like in that pool, and then the top 30% that could be in that pool or whatever. And that, like, for us, when we run a VSL funnel, it's a percent and a half that of leads will purchase, which is like not that good. And we understand that, but like the economics on it work. But if you run it in tandem to something like a low ticket or a direct to cart, you have that access. You also have like the risk mitigation of being able to do that, right? You're not just all in one, which we did that. We did 71 million through one VSL funnel. Like, that's it.
Same with us for the first 2 years.
Yeah, it's just like, and it's great because it's so simple and it's so easy, and you're just like, oh, I know my numbers, and oh, it's this. But like eventually there's market fatigue. Eventually there's like all these things, and it's just not smart to do, and we didn't realize that. Yeah. But if you can run them in tandem like that, yes, marketing attribution becomes a thing. Yes, understanding that. But if your blended numbers are, and I don't know how you're tracking ROAS, if you're like, and when you're saying that, you're saying new ROAS, if you're saying total rev, you know, for contract value. But for us, it's higher than that for sure, because we run them both through one. So like, I know I use it based on CPA, which is like a function basically, or, you know, the inverse can be ROAS depending on how you look at it. But like ours is multiples when we're in this new state and place, and forever it hasn't been. And it's so funny, but like the needle mover for us right now, a lot of the numbers stayed the same in marketing KPIs, and we changed our sales team KPIs.
I see. Because
we had the new leader and new management come in. They changed the floor basically of acceptance. And overnight, we went from doing 30, 50, 110, 50, like all over the board numbers, to steady state over 100 a day, like steady. And that alone, so you take a close rate, call it 15%, and you get that to 30, it's like your CPA goes from, call if it was
Yeah.
$5,000, it's now 2,500. Like that one metric of close rate,
Yeah.
which makes sense. Like when you think of it like that, but when you look at it in your marketing meetings and stuff, and you're like, how do we increase ROAS? How do we do whatever? It's like if your cost per call is $100, and you're this and that, and and your actual qualified call, and you're this, something's that middle of funnel, which sounds big, but like close rate can directly swing that. And change that so your ROAS goes from 2 to 4 or 2 to like.
Yeah.
But that's interesting. So is it, you think that's an interesting one?
I think
Because it's like, what do you want to run?
I think it's just so scalable, right? Like we could take, like we could scale to, I ran the numbers like 4 to 5 million a month with like 6 closers, if that's all we were running, which is insane to really think about.
Yeah, it's very.
But I think like you said, it's a very strong like base. Like I'm not sure, I'm sure you know like Jason Fladlander, I've heard of him at least.
Yep.
Like his thing is like the more webinars you run, like just it's going to lift the whole business. Because if like the more people you have just going and watching a 2-hour presentation, like there's no way that doesn't seep into all the other areas of the business, even if the ROAS like attributed to that funnel isn't the best. So yeah, I think it's exactly as you said. I had a limiting belief for a long time that we're just going to run the VSL funnel, optimize, 1% here, 2% there, 3% there, and optimize. But there's only so much of that you can do, right?
Yeah.
And you look at any of the big guys like Ty Lopez or Grant Cardone, it seems like they have like 10 offers going on
Yeah.
at any given
For
time.
sure. Eventually
Yeah.
it becomes an offer game, no doubt.
Yeah. So I think it's like the perfect base offer, and then it's like, what can we put around this thing, like the VSL funnel, potentially a low ticket funnel, maybe a challenge funnel. Like what will then, because if we have a webinar that we're spending $30K a day on, like think of all those people that are attending the webinar, might not be buying, but then will attend a challenge funnel or will watch our VSL. Just because different people respond differently to different conversion mechanisms, right?
No, for sure. And like I'm trying to remember what I think it's Dean Graziosi. I don't know. One of those guys that's in that realm of just like mass size. Maybe it's even Tony, but they talk about like having an offer suite where everybody has the opportunity to buy something. Everyone has a way to go from a lead, a viewer, consumer to a buyer, even if it's $1, even if it's $7, like having something. And I also don't agree with that until you're at size where it makes sense to do that, right? Because then all of a sudden you're just messy and fulfillment and community over here and community over here. But to layer them in strategically as you go, that's the other play for us of having such a low ticket, is because our TAM is so large. I mean, so is yours, right? I guess but the ability to sell 1,000 units a day of some like actual true low ticket, like sub 50 thing, gets the brand awareness maxed. And that's that whole raises all the ships type mentality, because it's like just being in people's eyes, but like you're making money from those enough to either liquidate or like your ascension math on it works. But now you're already popping up on all these other people's feeds. It's like the highest top of funnel. It's like the brand awareness idea. Yeah. And like you do that, then you understand the economics around the low ticket and the ascension side of it. And it's like that in itself makes money, but you're getting all of this thing for being able to spend $100,000 a day and get in front of everyone's eyes. And then someone has seen you, then they do go over to your cold stuff or your organic more so, and then like live over there for a while. And then now they become, over 2 weeks, 2 months, 2 years, if you're playing the long game, one of the people who come in the VSL funnel then, or go to your main site, apply direct and are like, yeah, cool, I'll do a PIF in 2 seconds. Yeah. It's like because they've done that, but that's just like depth and like moat around that for the front end.
Yeah. I remember like Grant Cardone in one of his interviews said something like one of the main metrics he looks at is how many people are Googling him every month. Like he goes on like Ahrefs or a keyword tool, like what does that trend look like? So if you look at your brand, like if you're spending $100K a day on a low ticket funnel, like there's no way it's not going very quickly up. Yeah,
for sure. But if you're only spending, 5 or 10 grand a day because you're in this pocket and you have like this 8x ROAS thing and you're like, oh, I'm just going to hone it and like do it for cash. It's a great thing, but it just depends on your goal. So it's like if you were going for size and scale, but that's very interesting, your economics on those. So I guess the other question though, that's like your ROAS. So when you're saying that's
cash collected ROAS.
Okay. So what's the LTV look like on these people? What are you offering them on the back? What's the community? What's the continuation after they get said program? You make another $100,000 a month or whatever, quick number from the software. So that's an LTV play. But like, what else is there something else to make it? So like, because the big guys lose money for however long to acquire a customer. You're over, you have great metrics and like trying to scale those or figure those out on both VSL and low ticket. But like, how do you make them 10x on the back when you look
Sweet,
at
man.
ROAS of the whole company?
Yeah, so two things. We started doing something similar to you, where like we have like a $3,000 a month, or $3,000 they can pay another 6 months. So the first 6 months is 6K, and then they can get up for 50% off to stay in with their one-on-one coach for another six. So a lot of people do that. It's definitely over 6 figures a month right now in that. But then something else we did that I think is pretty interesting is we built like a Shopify app where, like, if you join the program, so for your 6 months in the program, we actually own 6% of your revenue. And then once you graduate, we own 1% forever. If you're in one of the done for you programs, like the higher up ones, it's 6 and 2. So we essentially own like tiny pieces of revenue in every single client store as of the last few months. So we're just rolling that out still.
Interesting.
So this app gets installed on their store, and then essentially every month we debit the percentage of sales that they make. So the
Nice.
idea there is that
Yeah,
that will be a
that's
big MRR
large.
play. Yeah.
Yeah. And then is there some trade-off? I mean, is there a trade-off for then like continued access for that for the forever thing, or is it's built into the current structure of like service
It's
that
built
you
in.
just get it for the few? Yeah,
You
interesting.
just get it there, and then long term it's just part of the deal.
Yeah, and you see that clients and all that kind of stuff like do size after you guys. I mean, I'm sure you have some. I see some of your testimonials and your reviews and stuff for sure on the starter portion of like people understanding it, getting set up. Do you have guys who've gone off and done like whale size stuff, like large, or like continue to run them at scale?
Yeah, obviously like small percentage of people, but we've
Yeah,
had
well,
some.
that's anything.
Yeah, always,
Yeah,
yeah.
half of the people aren't going to show up to the first coaching call. So
Exactly,
yeah, like
yeah. Yeah,
that's
like there are people who are doing like one guy in particular within a year. So he went from complete beginner. He was like working in like corporate real estate or something. By 12 months, he was doing like over 2.5 million a month on his store. It's crazy. Like that
what kind
was
of margin. What kind of I mean, I know you quick said the unit margin, but at that scale, like what kind of margins on two?
I would guess around 10 to 15.
Yeah,
If I had to guess.
solid, solid.
No
For
inventory risk
that.
though.
Exactly, right?
Like
You have, yeah.
with e-commerce, like if you make 15% margin, it's your own brand. Like you're putting 12 of that back into more inventory. Where here we don't have to front anything for inventory, so it's a lot.
Yeah.
It's still a cash flow play.
Yeah. I always talk about what, like, how far can you take a business and like the depth, and like you obviously have that at your info coaching style level, but as somebody who's in there, what is like, as somebody who would be a client of the program, they go to there, they get to these type of scale. What else can they do? Is there a play to then roll out their own SKUs that are so like, that they do hold inventory on? Is that a play? Is like, what is the nth degree that someone could take it?
That
Or is
exactly
it just
that.
going into their own branded?
Exactly that. So that's kind of why I said before that a lot of people that end up doing really well long term have niche stores. Like imagine if you had a store selling 50 different products. It's hard to launch your own brand because it's like you're not really attached to any item. Where we had one guy, I won't give away his product, but essentially he had like a very niche store selling a very niche product. Like this isn't it, but if you were selling saunas, you were dropshipping saunas. Then if you have this whole store, this email list with 50,000 people who love saunas, maybe you have a community on school, it's very easy to then launch your own sauna brand on your store. So we've had a few people do that, but that would be like the nth degree, 2,
Yeah.
3, 4, 5 year play.
Yeah, I know like a lot of these back channels talk in Telegram, and a lot of them do ecom, but it's either dropship or some of them do like, and then there's also the gray guys and stuff like that that'll do things in there. But I hear a lot of the time now that people are figuring out a way to bolt info, community, coaching style stuff on the tail of physical. So like obviously that might, I mean, actually that's not true. It could work in a sauna game. Like that's a good example of like a sauna, but the guys who are crushing are doing that, but like multifaceted. So it's like, yes, you have a community of people who are all buying the sauna and like that brand or whatever, but like taking it to the next layer of a community around that, the other SKUs, the other things that you buy, the other partnerships around like those things, those guys are doing size.
Yeah.
Size.
I like when I was like one of my main products on the first store was saunas, and I didn't understand meta ads at the time. Like all I knew was Google. But ever since I've had the itch to like run a call funnel to a sauna. Like I know it would crush.
Oh yeah.
Nobody's
Yeah.
doing it though, right? Like right now,
Yeah.
you don't see anybody running like UGC ads to
No, you see Sunlighten or whatever, and like they end up getting, and then they hammer it once they get you in though. But like
there's
what
no
you're
ads.
saying there,
Go with their
yeah,
Facebook
the
ads
front
on
end
there.
of it is the
Nothing.
issue. It's like the
Yeah.
conversion is there. It's once you submit a form, they will call you from 6 different numbers. They'll call you from
Yeah.
localized. They'll text you from this. You'll get an account manager who's super nice. That's some pretty younger thing. Like they do the whole gambit of that part. but like that's like almost the middle. It's like the front, like you're saying, could be so much better with
Yeah.
UGC, with like how to get the booking form is the ugliest, most hard to navigate. Request a quote now,
Yeah.
like that part of it. And then I'm sure the back end, I haven't bought one of them direct because I live in apartments and I don't want to do that yet. And but like the back end, I'm sure is like they sell you that and then there's some service stuff. But even that community around a Sunlighten or whatever, those would crush. They do crush.
Yeah.
These guys in these groups do it with no brand or with their own, made a brand in a weekend type thing, and then
Yeah.
have evolved it.
And there's even
So
plays like I think now like a lot. I really like the model of e-commerce. Like I think the best e-commerce brands now, it's almost a product like a Whoop, where like you break even on the product and then you sell a subscription software like that you need to use the product. Another good one is like something like, I have a buddy of mine who's crushing it with like shower heads. So you buy like a shower head that filters lead out, but then you need to get a new filter
Oh yeah,
every 2 months.
yeah.
Like that's like, because then you get the MRR too, right? That's the problem with like a high ticket product, is a lot of the time it's just one purchase. So then eventually, like if you're going to have your own high ticket brand, you would have to add other product lines to cross sell, or figure out a way to have some sort of software attached to your product, or supplements would probably work too, to build up the MRR.
Yeah, that's super interesting. So what's your goal of your info, your coaching style? I mean, is it the make 50 or whatever number and kind of just chill? I mean, I know you post stuff with family and like that's amazing. Like you live in that, like how I perceive it, right, from the internet and stuff. And we haven't talked like this. This is our first direct, but we DM and stuff. You have a version of a good mix. What looks like you're not the penthouse Lambo kid, but like you're also living like the nice luxury, internet style life. So like, what's your goal of this? Is it to just run this and work, scale down your hours, but make a ton of income? Is it exit this? I don't know if this exits. Like, what's the play?
Yeah, it's a really good question. So I think like immediate goal is we want to bring it to 5 million by the end of the year per month, which I think is definitely doable.
Yeah.
Longer term, I'm not really sure. Like I was having a chat with Jason about this last week, like about what should the end goal of a business like this be. And like he made a good point to me. He's like, don't try and make the business something it's not, which his point was a lot of people do. It depends on the niche. Like I think yours in particular has like a very strong brand, and I can see exit value. I don't know if ours does. So yeah, like I invest a ton of money now. Like I put up pretty much all my income just in investments and stuff. So I think in like on a long scale, like 10 to 15 years, my ideal scenario would just to be just capital allocating, investing in different companies, spending lots of time with my family, being able to travel lots. But at the same time, I can't really imagine not running a business actively.
Yeah.
Like that's what I love doing the most, especially the marketing side of things. So I think now like we have a really good thing going on. I really enjoy it. We have a great team. And we built the one software out. Who's to say that we can't make some tweaks to that and then it ends up being something bigger? We're building out other softwares, or considering building out other softwares. So I'm not in a huge rush. Like everything's going well right now. I don't want to overthink it, but at the same time, the words Jason used was like, once, I guess every offer will eventually fatigue. And rather than trying to spend time plugging holes on a sinking ship, like you can just build a new ship, a new offer, a new front end. So I think that's what we're trying to do now that we didn't do, is put on these different front ends. So we have the webinar now. We'll probably, I'd like to try, challenges seem to be crushing right now. So try one of those. And then the more of these offers we have, the more longevity the business will have. But yeah, I don't know. Like, I think, what do you think? Like in an info offer, if you have, let's say, a few softwares that are all doing decent numbers per month, do you think that it's almost like a new industry that VCs aren't familiar with? But like hypothetically, they spit cash. So why would they not be sellable? If you do the right things, like which I've done over time, is try and remove myself from the brand. So use less of me in ads. I'm not in the course videos anymore at all. So all the courses are taught by different coaches. I'm not in the coaching calls. So it's like, and for me, it's like, it's not like I have a huge organic presence. So it's like, if someone else is in the ads, is it really going to make that much of a difference?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, spade to spade, right? 0.001% of these have sold in the past, right? Just is what it is. And the list of things that I know of, and I'm sure there's 50 things I don't know of why they couldn't sell, but like, it's exactly what you're saying. It's the founder risk. It's the consistency around the future cash. It's the reliance on the risk that exists within the acquisition and the having to spin different things up. founder risk, both of you operating and of in the ads, which like you said, you're out of ops, but like you're definitely still the brand fit. You're the one I see all the time, even when I see ads, but that just might be my algo. But like that piece of it. And then the consistency of future cash and the believability around it, the math behind that. And then the entire business operating data, numbers, clean, like that whole portion, which almost every single one of those boxes either is, not checked in most of these, or some of the core ones are not checked in most of these.
I agree.
So I don't know, because I think the software thing is like,
I think
it's just like an MRR play, right? It's just like how you choose to fulfill it. So instead, I could have a coach that just does group coaching, and like, if you're just looking at the numbers, it's the same. It's like a recurring thing that comes in, the usability, the sticky, you just, what's the math on the churn? What's the math on, your gross margin on it? And what's the consistency of it across whatever time, in my simple opinion. But like, if those things can't stand alone or are not in their own right, it's like, what are they buying? They're just buying the cash flow.
But like that, but for example, with your new offer, the low ticket continuity, like let's say if in 3 years from now, 60 to 70% of your revenue is from that, and you have a low churn, like to me, that's a very sellable business.
For sure. That's why we're doing it. For sure. I mean, we're doing it because it's like, we've been dumb and it's like this leaky bucket thing. And that's why I'm trying to like figure that out more and more as we go. But supplements, consumable, recurring, get pissed if they don't come in the mail the next month. Like that is a core one, especially for our model, because we teach so much around that, around like the core piece. And then supplements are truly a supplementation to the core. And then also so much of our stuff is around weight training and like muscle development, which a lot of that stuff is almost needed in supplements, because it's hard for them to hit the numbers that they need to hit within eating, just in eating, like protein number, for example. It's easier to supplement that with something. So like that's one. And then the continuity community play, if we hammer that and actually do it, I mean, quick numbers, 3,000 people, like $1 million a month, and then 95% margin on it, a couple CS and then some group coaches where the math. So like, that's the play.
I agree.
That's the play. Cause then you've got 10 million a year in, EBITDA, which is like whatever, because there's no, but like, if we're talking selling stuff, it's like, that's the number from there. And then how they consistently get into it. Cause then now you have that as like, look at that as an isolated model. And it's like, how do they come in? It's like, they're coming in as customers from over here. Okay, so now this one becomes very important. How do the customer, like, how does this one fulfill, and how do they get here to make it so that can exist on the back? And then go even further on the front, and it's like, are you running from one ad account with one face? The one face is someone who's an owner, and these things. And it's like, so that's why right now we just got done filming. I don't think I've talked to you about this, but we just got done filming 3 different VSLs with 3 different brand faces.
Oh, no way.
So we have 3 brand faces now that all are in a different messaging line.
Are they different ages, or like how are they different?
Different demos, but the messaging is different. So like for us, let's say it's like mindset, macronutrients, muscles, let's just say as an example. But like, so one is all about like strength training is the mechanism in some way, shape, or form. This one is all about how, menopause or metabolism is. This one is all about how it's macronutrient based, like as an example. So both the person is different, the message line is different, all under the one umbrella of the brand. And so those are going to be 3 different VSLs. So the ad, the opt-in page, like the images and stuff and alignment is there, and then the VSL, and then when they hit application is when they all kind of like branch in together.
So how do you communicate to the sales rep, or does it make a difference to the sales process?
It won't though. That's the point. Is it won't, because it'll come together prior. So it's going to come together prior, and the pass off is almost there. So like the original, so you as an example, it would come into, by the time that they were applying, they understood that they were applying for, your specific thing, and then you are become the founder, the creator of the, XYZ ecom method, the something. And these other people are like either brand ambassadors or face it or whatever you want to call them internally, or customer facing. We haven't actually identified how we're going to do that in the direct pass off. Because right now we're doing this and we're running those 3 brand faces on the ad side, and we attempt to kind of do the pass off, but it's like an ad of them under our brand stuff, but then it lands on an opt-in page that has our main brand face as the image on there. They opt in whatever, and we have sets in there that are 7x ROAS that are that with no continuity, because they're like, as soon as it hits that page, it's like, you're going to tell me I can't get a 10%, 20% lift on an opt-in that aligns face to face, and then you're going to tell me after that they go to a VSL that is not them either, So it's like we're going to try and take those three sections, ad, opt-in, VSL, and align them across three. Hit those. I mean, we did 70 through one. You're going to tell me you can't do 20 to 50 or whatever through each of them.
Yeah.
And then do also the thing with the low ticket.
How'd you find these people?
Online. Just on
like-
on Instagram, organic built up, and like we're not going to use their organic distribution. I mean, maybe, but we're not even using their distribution.
So you just said like, hey, do you want to be a face for a brand, and then you'll give them.
Yep.
Nice.
Yeah. So it was a thing we've talked about for a while when it was like, oh, founder risk and all this, and we got a like cart and head ahead of the horse vibe, and we hired before we moved everything to W2 before this whole like exit potential play, and we were just so off base and wrong. We did not even focus on, to this moment, I can't tell you certain numbers and things around what exists within fulfillment and churn and LTV and stuff in like a proper way. I can give you averages, I can give you napkin math, but like, can I pull it up and see, do I know how many go from this to like cash collection percentage? Like there's all this stuff. And that is 100% the thing that's going to take us to the next level. Now that marketing and sales is like the inflows are there. Now let's do risk mitigation. Let's, consistently try and keep that cost per call or whatever here, sales, keep them in with these KPIs, high performance culture. Now it's going to be what happens within fulfillment. How is the fulfillment for year one framed in a way that this is the next 3 years or 5 years? What is the, churn, and how do we make it the stickiest community ever for the, downsell opportunity or whatever that is? And build that all around there. But yeah, you zoom into the marketing and it's like, how do you risk mitigate and do that across there and do it with a team? Because the new risk is the expert. There's the other experts, right? It's like using these brand faces, then all of a sudden you have all the stuff built around them. And then, worst case is something happens, but normal case is someone either, wants more XYZ or thinks of this or structure. They want to go stand alone and do their own thing now. And like, there's all that kind of stuff, but that's just life. But
that's interesting, yeah. Because I'm actually working on a new VSL now. It's me, but in the VSL itself, we filmed like 4 different angles. Like the first 5 minutes are different, but I almost wonder like hearing you say that makes me think like my plan was going to be like test the 5 angles, whatever one's the best. If it beats the control, just run that. But like, why not just leave the current one running and just like
we just did. We just did that same thing. We do 3 leads when we do ours. So we have 3 complete different VSL scripts that then have 3 different leads in them for each one. Nice. So like, and then
rather than trying to find a winner, you'll see like a couple of winners and leave them just both running because they're different.
That is such a highly debated topic internally. That is such a highly debated topic because we have 2 that are like pretty different that for the last 7 months, we had a 50-50 split on the control on like the main that we would just let run.
Just 50-50.
Because they were so dead, like all the way to the backed out numbers of like deal closed, it was like a % difference. Like not even just talking like application and booking, like down to the dollar of what they each like had collected at the VSL, at the actual cold one. The one that comes in right there, not the replay page, not the whatever, like this one, just raw 50-50.
Do you have data how many people watch both?
I have everything on this.
Does that happen all the time? Do people watch both and then buy?
Well, okay, so that was the difference, is we picked one of them to put on the replay pages.
I see.
Yeah, one that we thought was kind of more in alignment, but like we let them run forever. And like what you're saying is like if we had 2 different leads and they had similar stats, and then what's the reason? And our CMO came in and is like, that is the silliest thing I've ever heard. Like, no, if it doesn't beat a control, go back to the control like immediately. Don't split test your way into to 0, which is a thing like we were talking about earlier, like a 2 and a 5 and a whatever, and you're just going to optimize. Eventually somehow you break what you had. It's very common to do that where you're trying to find your 2 and 5% lifts across your VSL funnel, and next thing you know, it's like this isn't in alignment with this. You try and change this back to this, but now it's not in alignment with the other 6 changes you made. And like that's a real thing too.
That's interesting though, because it's like we were talking earlier about like the key to scale is adding more front ends. So if I have like this VSL, like let's say I can spend 10K a day on this VSL with this angle about the whole angle of the VSL is about selling high ticket products. And like let's say every dollar above 10K is diminishing returns. Mm-hmm. So like I have this VSL here, and I make this new VSL that also does very well, but the whole angle around that is around the US-China trade wars. So I don't actually say the model in the first 5 minutes about US-China trade wars. Like to me, like it's very easy to see like how I could spend 10K here and spend 7K here and get the same ROAS on both, where like I couldn't spend 17K on this one only.
Okay, well I agree with that, because that's more along the lines with the different messaging and like how we're talking about how we could do.
Yeah.
20K a day is rough. That's pretty rough to our number is like 20K a day on where I don't want to say like diminishing returns, but kind of diminishing returns on like an opt funnel for us. And there are people who can run to a VSL and spend 300 grand a day direct. So like it's generally the quality of the VSL or the conversion mechanism, like how that actually works. But for us, call it 20 Gs. So like we should be able to do that 3 times over. And I think that's what you're saying. The same thing is like you should be able to do that with even just a different lead and your same VSL with a different lead. Do that in its standalone. Yeah, I mean, I think that would work.
Yeah, I'll try it. Worst case, it doesn't work.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, worst case, it doesn't work. I want to go to these questions over here because people actually ask some questions. So let me pull those up. But here's a good one. If you had to launch a high ticket offer today with 0 audience, 0 case studies, and 0 past clients, what would you do to get your first 3 sales this month? 0 audience, 0 case studies, 0 past clients.
It's a tough one.
That's so
I guess like I can probably build an audience within a month that gets at least 3 sales.
Yeah.
Assuming I know what I'm talking about, right? So I would just pick what I'm good at, start posting YouTube videos, tweets. Like that's what I did for the first year of our offer. I didn't have any paid. It was just Twitter and YouTube. That's it. So I'd probably just do that. Pick something I'm good at, start making content on it on YouTube and Twitter specifically. And then that would get you your first 3 clients. But I think like let's say if you're going to be like a back end person who's running the offer, and you can kind of pick whatever niche you want to go into and just find someone to be the face of the brand. I would say you just want to look at like hot trends. Like right now, if 5 years ago you were going to start an offer on how to start an agency, just start how to start an AI agency.
Yeah,
today.
Literally.
Yeah, just find the hot whatever it is like right now AI, paste that use that in whatever market, and I think it'll be pretty easy.
Yeah, I think the core thing you said that stood out was what is something I already know, right? It's like everything after that is just how do you get eyeballs on it? How do you actually convert them? But like you have to actually know something or that.
Yeah.
And too many times I talk about it all the time on here, but like the person who teaches people how to make money and they make their money by teaching people how to make money. And it's like, that stuff drives me insane, like drives me crazy for that niche. But because you came to this because you're like, oh, I did this. I built this business model. Now here's how I built the business model, right? It's like I ran it. So I think what a lot of these guys will have, and I get this in my DM for the 0 to 10K guys, is like, how do I get going and like launch a high ticket thing, and they haven't done anything.
Yeah, I would say you should at least like minimum of like you should at least be doing like millions of dollars in revenue in whatever the thing is.
Yeah.
Minimum.
Yeah, and it's like then it's like at some level, why you and I have talked offline on like where yours came from. There's some people who would go as far to be like, why even teach it then? Why wouldn't you just run it at scale? And it's like you already said what at a certain point where the cap exists, or if you have to go into this next level of business model versus layering on info and coaching.
I think the other thing is like a lot of people get this wrong, is like the people who come into our program, like they're not expecting nor even have the goal to make millions of dollars. Like they want to make $2,000 a month. Like for most people, that is a life-changing amount of money. So like there's like certain things like most people that we work with would never want to run the business model we have now with 60 employees, lots of stress. Like they just want to make it a couple $1,000s a month and go watch their kids' baseball games, right? Yeah. So there's like certain business, like an info business is not that.
Yeah. No.
At all. Like it's very stressful, fulfilling on clients. So like I think you just have to know your clients, what they want. But I think like as long as you're clear on that in your messaging, then like the offer should be tailored to whatever the clients actually want. Like in our case, that's what it is most of the time. So like there's not like for me now running a big offer, it's completely different. Like we have coaches who now teach these people who came through the program last year and got the results that they want. So like an example I always think of is like,
oh, your CS is our clients, past clients?
Yeah, past clients who have done well.
So good, dude. That's so good.
Yeah. So it's like, for example, if you were to learn, if someone in our program, like they would probably take more from our coaches who went through the program in the last 6 months than someone who's like making $300 million a year, but hasn't been at that first level in 10 years. Because it's so unfamiliar to them. They don't remember what it's like,
That's so, no, that We used to have that where it was our CS, and I mean, it kind of still is. We have like the legacy people, but we got to that point where we needed the experience that was like external that you couldn't get from being within there. But in something like this, where like the model changes and the market changes of
Yeah.
how it's done, like ours is pretty foundational. It's pretty core, right? It's
Yeah.
like, there's not necessarily a new tactic or way or thing or like what software stack you're using. Like that doesn't exist in ours. But you got to watch the video from last night where I talked to Ahmed. His is organic exclusively. They then sell into MRR communities almost exclusively, and it's all like it's all those trading guys.
Oh,
But like
nice.
he
Yeah.
picks like the Black Swan, not like the Miami Penthouse guy. Like he picks like the legit guys that can do like extreme depth. So because they can do that, they can do mid to long form YouTube that gets like the right person. They then put them in these MRR communities, so they have no cost to get them in there other than whatever you pay for your content team, basically. They get MRR for extended amounts of time where people stay in there because most of them want access to like the live information, not for the education, right? Because they're getting like signal chats and they're getting
Yeah.
like updated things in that way. And then the ones who do want to learn then ascend to a 5 or a 10K thing for info that can go as high as 25, 30K, whatever. You can do in person, you can do all these different things. And it's like this juggernaut spinning. And like, I think that's another example of like where you how you can monetize it if you have to. I mean, start small, and it's almost like a personal brand that carries. It's the same thing. It's like it's not going to sell. He said some of them have sold based on the data they have, not on the actual like business they have. It's how much data they have and like on these people and what like platforms and the stuff moving around. But that was an extremely interesting like frame shift for me. I was like, oh, because theirs is literally flipped. You're like done with you or you're done for you is 30 grand or whatever. They're done for you is like $90 a month
Really?
because the education is the back.
I see.
Because
That's
someone who
yeah.
wants to like learn how to fish versus just like someone,
I was thinking about this last week. Like another great way to add longevity and even MRR to an info offer is like most programs out there. It's just a program, right? Like these are the modules you go through, keep them up.
Yeah.
Like how can you add stuff to keep that fresh? Like whether it's a live call, like for us, it could be like every week I do a live training session on like this week I'm going to teach you how to write advertorials using AI. And every week there's this new thing, almost like a paid newsletter you're subscribed to that makes them want to stay.
Yes.
Which is so much more powerful than just like, here's the course, go through it. Once you're done the
Yeah.
course, there's not any new value.
Yeah, a synthesis of me hearing a Hormozy and an Iman podcast, both who I like respect in the space heavily. Like I think those guys have done it well in info and like have gone beyond. But Hormozy talks about how when they sold and what a piece of what they sold is people stay basically they'll test ads, so gym launch or whatever. They'll test ads using like their setup in these local markets. Once they find winners of going through and finding losers too and spending the money, they then will release those ads basically in same thing, like a blast to everyone who buys their stuff. And those people who stay and pay recurring because they get fresh ads delivered. Right. So yes, they have all this other stuff too, and the training, and I'm sure, that's a million things. But like the one thing he talked about was like access to that list, essentially, that is refreshes and comes out new. And that's why the MRR is there, because they're going to be upset. Like they're going to be upset if their subscription doesn't go through, because next month now they have no new ads. They don't know how to do that part of the business. And it turned into more of like done for you for that portion that they have recurring.
That's
Then
very
you hear
smart.
Iman talk about it where he's like, info that it's in itself, info does not ascend or MRR like style, because you're teaching them, they're coming to learn one thing. And it's like your course or your whatever, your program, like it teaches them the thing. And unless you have the next evolution of that or something that is like that where you stick and stay into it, like you're saying, and that's almost like even a version of continuing education, but like the software where they're accessing it and they like, if you don't have that, us as an example, right? Like a lot of our stuff has been around teaching them how to do it while also them doing it. So after year one, it's like, okay, go do your thing. And
Yeah.
like, that's us devaluing what we're doing, because without doing a disservice to the customer and like not teaching them and like gatekeeping, because that's not how I want to play either.
No, of course not.
But like, there's still a way to do it where like you put value on the other pieces, or you like a la carte almost, or like build the other offer that's around the personalization, the community, the things you can't get unless you stay within here, versus like differentiate it out and pull it out from the education and identify that, I think is a huge thing.
So when Hormozy sold, he said that was a big reason of why, is they had that piece.
To my understanding, it's I mean, they built the juggernaut of, he's the one, he has a video that has it's the one where it's like the Mosey Lisa thing. And
Yeah,
and he has the different boards he puts up there. It's like, you need clean financials. You need, a team that runs it, that when you come back, it's at the same place or better than when you left. You need this. And founder risk is one of them. And then the other part is like the consistency of future cash. And for them, it was this big acquisition thing. It was just like making a ton of cash, but they built in the supplement company and all that stuff in the back, which is this big MRR thing. And they got distribution through their customers. So they went like 2 layers, right? So like for us being like, oh, we have 10,000 customers, I can sell supplements to these 10,000 customers. Theirs was, we can sell to our however many thousands of customers, but their customers were gym owners that then had their clientele. So it was like 2 layers of distribution
yeah, that's
to
very
be able to
interesting.
do that and do an affiliate model. So like they got compensated. So it was like a flywheel in there. So
That's interesting.
now you have recurring subscription there, then, which is, recurring cash. And then how they kept, and this is again, to my understanding of what I've heard online, this is not to say this is exactly how this was, but then the other piece of it was the recurring for the info, that's why they called it licensing, because they were licensing out their ads. They were licensing out like their formula, their structure, their everything, where that was being updated real time. So you're paying for access to the licensing information, not so much paying for, oh, here's how I do it A to Z, and now I continue to pay for what when I already learned how to do the model.
Makes sense. Yeah. It's
So
super interesting.
yeah.
It's almost like the next evolution of the linchpin. Like the linchpin
Yes.
was like, you get these people in for your info, you put them on your software, you build up the software. But it's like you get clients in, and then you teach them how to sell your software or teach them how to sell your supplements themselves. Super interesting.
That's how, dude, that's, you just said that and that totally sparked my brain. I learned how to run call funnels and how to do all this. So Russell Brunson, so what he used to do, what is that exact business model, is he used to teach the black box business model. Have you heard of this?
No.
Yeah, this was like a big thing and that he did for a long time. And it works for all kinds of things because it's a black box. But it's essentially you teaching it's like the most meta thing ever. You're selling the black box through webinar, VSL, this whole thing. You're selling this black box business model. You're selling the black box business model. They then come through it. And then when they join, you're basically teaching them how to run the black box business model. And they're like an affiliate for you. So the example of this is there was one, I don't even remember the name, like Digital Course Creator, like some branded something. They ran this VSL funnel explaining how you're going to learn how to run VSL funnels basically, and how you're going to learn how to get clients and do all this kind of stuff and sell things on the internet and sell high ticket things and get commissioned for it, and how you can basically be like a high ticket affiliate basically. So similar to your like kind of frame, but like with info and coaching is what you're teaching them instead of in that. You come into there, then they teach you everything A to Z. It's like, here's how you set up your ClickFunnels account. Here's how you do this. Here's how you find these different affiliates. Here's how you whatever. And right there, it's like, or do you want to get 40% commissions right now and just help us sell this?
Oh, no way. Yeah.
And so it works for that. I know a ton of people who did it with like that Anagic or like Kangen water thing. That's the model they used. So like the direct sales model, people who do MLM will do it. They'll sell this business model of here's how you have your at home, like make money online business. It's through this. There's the black box business model. They'll sell it, and then in there, it's like, cool, now you order this, order this, order this. And they become like a distributor under your direct sales network or multi-level marketing or whatever. Some people hate them and pyramid scheme them. Some people make, tens of millions of dollars a year. I know both of them. And then they become distributors for them, and then they use those funnels to then do the same thing on theirs. And it's like this.
Yeah. It's interesting because like that to me doesn't, like what you described doesn't scream enterprise value to me. But like,
No,
let's say
not
if
at
I
all.
built, but I think you can do it with enterprise value. Like, let's say if I had a software I built, and I'm going to teach people how to run. Let's say I'm going to run an offer showing people how to start an agency, and the agency they're going to run is targeting local business owners to use AI in their business. And let's say I built like 3 AI softwares that all these local businesses are going to need. And then I have my clients fulfill targeting these local businesses who need my software. Like that's a really interesting way to actually build up the enterprise value of those softwares.
Yes, agreed. Yeah, but then it becomes part of that whole, right? It's like if they're not standalone, it becomes part of the whole, which is essentially kind of what we said with the Hormozy model. But I've said this on every single one of these I've had, but it's like, how deep can you take the business model? And when going that depth is when you start to, I think, reach the levels that unlock the ability to sell and start to build the true enterprise value versus like you have an offer and it's like just quit, you're a sales rep basically and you're like turn cash in, cash out. Then you're, the offer owner, then you're, multi, then you have software, you have multiple offers, you have, a team around it. You start to go up these layers of where you can go with it. And that is what unlocks it, I think. So
yeah. Because it's like, if you don't have that, like even if you get, which would be like very generous for most of these businesses, like a 2 to 3x multiple on your profit. Like, why would you not just keep your business? Like, you have to like find a way to get it up to like 6, 7.
Yeah, more than that, exactly.
Yeah, the only way is what we're talking about now, like MRR, long term.
Yeah. It's like a black box for us because no one has really sold in ours either, which is it's just, should be screaming straight in my face again that it's a 0.001% chance. Like, and I understand that. But I don't know where it'll even land. And if you just do it based on like on EBITDA numbers or whatever, supposedly when you leave that 5 range, like you get past 5 million in EBITDA range, you start to get into like the 8-figure range in EBITDA, the multiple in itself just climbs because that is just it reaches like enterprise, right? Yeah. It's like who do the buyer? It's because the buyer pool increases. It's that who is willing to buy something like that. It's like goes from like strategic to like, middle market or whatever they call it, or small, and then up to where there's actual private equity players that are willing to just buy and hold almost on some of these things and have efficiencies. So I wonder if we can get to 20, 30, 50 in EBITDA. That would be insane. That could be 8, 10.
But then do you want to sell that business? 50 EBITDA business?
Like, if you get 8 to 10x, maybe.
100%. Yeah. Yeah.
Dude, getting 8 years of cash up front is real. And eventually, I don't know. I mean, like the other comparable ones in our space, like they sold, but really they just kind of like closed down or just like, piece and parted. Oh, the domain has X or the email list has this or the whatever they could sell.
There's also like most of these have like earnouts, right? You might get.
I'm sure. Yeah. Well, the goal is to get out of that too, which is then eating the cash flow on the way up. So like when you are, how I'm understanding it is when building to get there, you're biting cash now for this multiple out into the future. Because, simple examples, if you're operating and it's whatever you want to hire one, it's 200 grand, let's say. Right? It's like that 200 grand you now are not making because you're trying to build this in a way and structure it in some way for this 0.001% chance that's going to happen where you're going to have it and you can't be the one operating it when you sell it. Yeah. So it's like you're trying to like play this game that for something that might not ever happen.
Yeah, it's really weird.
And in the short term, burning all this stuff that you could just be like lean, mean. And that's why it's like, what's your goal and what's realistic? Because if you just want cash flow and you want to make $5-10 million a year, like this is pretty simple to do it.
Yeah.
Simple, not easy. Simple, not easy.
Have you removed yourself yet? Or there's still things that
I have put myself more in. More in. Yeah. No, way more in. I was not, I don't know. I don't talk about it too much in here, but like I was really mainly more, I've always understood the marketing part. I've always been understood it, not run it. Like I'm not a great copywriter. I'm not a great like eye for creative, but I've understood the idea of the acquisition is probably a better way to say it. And like I've always been plugged in all the communities and groups and direct response world and what's hot in VSLs versus webinars versus low ticket. I wanted to do low ticket 2 years ago. And I was not in a place and space in life or like my involvement to where that was reasonable to get done. It was like, what do you mean the VSL funnel is working good? I wasn't that plugged into marketing other than just understanding what's happening. And like, that was that. And then as things have progressed, I have stepped way more into ops, full system, people, all the, everything marketing, everything sales, everything tech. Cause I built all the tech stack from the ground up, like myself. And now that's what we have a senior tech lead that does better than I do, but isn't like enterprise grade. So I'm like, I need to that's the department that I think is going to break next, like data fulfillment, data style thing. Mm-hmm. And so I'm trying to, how does that scale? It's like, we need probably like, CTO is an aggressive title, but like that style of something. And I want them to come with the experience of like a Cardone, a Robbins, a Graziosi, like a something. How do these guys do that at scale with their data management and structure of tech?
Yeah, I just hired someone like this. Like I think for like I do all the marketing still to this day, and like there would be things that I know we needed to do and I wanted to do, but I just didn't know how to do them tech wise. Like countless things. And then we brought in this new guy He doesn't have experience in the info space, but he's worked at like Cloudflare high up, like can do like solve problems that I couldn't figure out in months in like 5 minutes on the tech side of things. But I think that unlocks the marketing to a level that
I agree.
Yeah.
I still do to this day all the marketing tech.
Yeah. It's so important.
It's so important. And I think that's also like, it's definitely like a skill set, but is it for the future pacing? Like I'm trying to like have the, like, you know, this is a conversation example, but like this, or like high level decision conversations or thoughts around everything in like the sales thing. And it's like, oh, hey, we need to over here, we want to launch 3 split tests for VSL funnels. Like, is this right? And like, I have done a poor job of removing myself while taking on all these other pieces. So that's the next piece, is like, the simple answer is I need a marketing tech. Okay, that's an easy hire. I need, then the bigger one is the data and the full data structure, which needs to be completely overhauled from the ground up. We need like source of truth. We need to, I think I'm going to move everything into custom objects in HubSpot, and like, I can yap all day about this part, but like, that's the next piece. And instead of me doing it or hiring an external service provider to come out and build it and then like hand it off, I am like, can I just swing for the fences and get somebody that's my push to the universe, by the way, if anyone's out there or knows. I want like Cardone's tech guy, and not to poach, but like I want someone of that caliber or of that understanding level of where they kind of get the info coaching. I mean, all it is service without like real cost, right? It's like a service model. It's like, what are the contract values? How are these in here? What are the ascension rates? I need all of that data. I already have all the marketing and sales data. Now, how does that connect at the customer level to fulfillment and to finances and to like Ascension and all of that in a clean way that's not you and me sending each other Google Sheets? So like, I need it in databases that then have viewers, that have connections and like relational. Like, I need all of that.
That's what we're building out now, is like a data warehouse with like nice graphs. Because right now, it's same as it sounds like you. Like we're on HubSpot, but it's all like Google Sheets. Like all my marketing data is on Google Sheets, but we have to get that in a data warehouse, which I would have no idea how to set up at all. But making everything connect. So like even for like lifestyle marketing, like, do you know how I said before that like the webinar buyer comes in at $9.95 or $19.90? Like, we want to be able to, for example, if in Kajabi, if they buy the program, then don't log in for 2 weeks, send a zap to HubSpot, tag an SCR to reach out to that person, which that's all tech.
Yeah.
Like, I can know to do that, but if I don't know how to set it up, it doesn't mean anything.
Yeah. Well, here's my issue is I know how to do that, and I've known how to do that, and that would take me 2 minutes to set up or 12 minutes to set up. My issue is I've now done that 300 times, and there's no documentation, and there's no structure, and there's no whatever, and something breaks and someone doesn't get a notification, and it's like, where is it? And then the data piles and sources, because I've done so many of these like crazy cool hybrid, like we're so tech advanced, and we are, but we're not in a structural like foundational way. They've just layered onto each other. It's like literally, you know, imagine someone wrapping duct tape over and over and over and over and over. Eventually it's just like, you just have this giant bump of duct tape, and it's like, it's held together. It's fine. It's not going anywhere. It's not going anywhere. But like, at the same time, do you want to like, you know, put an airplane on the other end of it, or is it going to snap in half? And it's like, yeah. So I'm over here, 10 million a month, 20 million a month. Like, let's go. Which just on paper is just more volume of the same. Like, it's an automation. It's going to work. But if it can't get us simple, the things that are a little hard now are going to be very difficult there. Like very, very difficult.
And it's almost hard, like, don't you find that like once where you're at now, it's so much harder to like go back and fix it. If you just start from scratch today, it would be so easy to do what you want to do. That's the hard part.
And that's why when I'm saying this next layer is like, if I'm starting from scratch, why would I start from scratch at like the next level up versus the next level up? And again, that's how, where your awareness is. And this morning it was one thing. I talked to 2 guys. I talked to someone who just came from Cardone, who I thought was more tech ops. It's actually marketing ops. And then I talked to someone who was doing some over at publishing, and like same-ish person, but like I'm trying to navigate what does that role even look like. And interesting to hear from those guys what is working over there at some of those companies, because it does sound a bit hybrid-y. And it's like, and then this you'll find this interesting. One of them was talking about how, because you only have a handful of players that I would categorize as like info coaching that have reached like mass scale and stayed there. So your Tonys, your Grants, your, you know, that realm of people have stayed there. There are plenty of people that do over 10 million a month right now that I haven't even heard of, but they're more offer style, not more like, right? The other play that some of these guys are making is they're hiring in like private equity data people, private equity CFO people that come from that space, so that you're almost like backfilling the things you don't know about how to make it exitable.
Interesting.
How does your data need to look? How do your numbers need to look? What is attractive? What, you know, because then you just, when it's time, if ever, again, 0.01% chance, I understand, but like, if you just need your, like, why wouldn't you build it in a way, if that's the goal, so that your model just plops out and imports directly into theirs, and how you do all your, like, you have all the red flags and things they're going to check already completely done on the front end. It's like that process of when you want to do it and then you get an investment banker and they go through and do all this. It's like, what if you're just built like that? What if you just operate like that? You operate like a portco company of a private equity company before you are one.
Yeah, it's interesting because like you say 0.1%, and it's true, but like I would say in this space, 0.1% of companies would do that. It's like nobody even try.
Oh, I
Nobody
agree.
does it the right way. You
I
know,
agree.
it's like if you do it the right way, like what is the percent? Like I don't think we
I
know
agree.
because nobody's actually done it.
No,
Well,
I mean,
people have
I
done it. Like
know, I
Hormozy
know
did it,
three or
and it
four
worked.
off the top. Exactly.
Yeah, yeah.
Correct. Yeah. So the one guy who tried it did it. So maybe that's, yeah, no, but, there's some other big names that I know that got up to size and basically tried, like started to talk about doing it and started to get in the direction of it. I know one of them that sold for like 5. I know another one. I know some guys that are actually in the,
5x,
no, for like 5 mil
500.
in total,
Oh,
5
oh,
mil in
5 mil.
total.
I
Yeah.
see.
I think Hormozy's numbers was 45, 55, somewhere in that range, that they
Yeah,
sold there, I think. And they did other, and again, then it's all down to deal structure, and they kept X amount, and they did, like, I don't know. I don't know any of that. No one knows, directly, but the model of building it to this size and selling it, I don't know where it's been done. Or if the business just changes out of info coaching and goes into like supplements, like the example, the other company that was in our space that got to serious size, they moved to over 80%. They started as info coaching, and over 80%
what's
by
it
the
called?
time.
What's that one called? I know it.
I'll tell you off. I'll tell you
Yeah,
off. I'm
tell me
docked.
off. But I
I'm
think I
docked.
know it was an offer like yours, and then it went to supplements, right?
Yeah, and it was
Yeah,
over 80% of their stuff was supplements in the tail,
I
and
see.
they ended
Yeah,
up, and yeah, they publicly posted around whatever, and then ended up being sold, and it was like this whole thing, and they had just built it and just grinded and cooked on this thing and like crushed it, and it just got to a point of like complexity, cost, rise, how the thing. I don't have all the details, but they ended up getting out of it, but not getting out of it, to my understanding, at the level of where they maybe could have, or where if it was structured in a little bit different way, it could have. And I don't have the context fully, but those guys, like, that's all. That's the, not saying them, but like that idea of where we're taking on all this extra everything to go for this dream of being able to do this, and what you give up in terms of literal cash and time and focus and how you build, and not just like having fun and just cash flowing it. What you give up to get here and then not achieving that when you get there is like, oh boy.
especially when you just like look at if you just put that in the S&P 500 and waited 15 years, like it would have been
Yeah,
probably the same
and
amount.
cash flow, exactly. If you would have heavy cash flowed it, and so Iman talks about this. He literally has, and I quote said, and I've talked to him one on one about stuff. Like I pay for his stuff, I pay for everyone's everything. But he literally was like, I would rather run one that does, 3 million in profit on 5 million in top line total, than I would one that does, 15 million a year with like 5 or 6 million. He's like all day. Like he's the one who, he loves that model of the 70-80% profit margin, like stay in this pocket. They do a lot of stuff organic, which is where you lose the 30-40%
Yeah,
depending, right? Just like right off the rip. If you can't do it through organic, it's just 30% of your margin's gone. You're 3x ROAS ish. But
but like I don't think what he's done is like it's not very like most people will never do that. Where I think like with
of
paid
course,
ads, it's a lot easier for someone to get to 5 million profit, let's say, than
agreed.
strictly
But
organic. Yeah,
yeah, and I think his piece more so was around which I think you're doing a very, very good job at. So like, yes, you bite 30% or whatever number on ads on your marketing side of things, but how you then operate within your fulfillment and your team and everything in that
yeah,
way is lean. You look at someone like us, we are hammering both of them.
yeah,
So like we, call it 30% just because how we're saying it here, which it's not, by the way, everyone. But it's 30% is ad. Then we have a heavy fulfillment side. And then over top of this, because these have gotten so large, we have a heavy overhead side,
yeah.
because I have an HR director. I have a talent experience manager. I have, 2
All
layers
your
of sales
software
manager.
bills, all your software bills for like
Oh
100
my
people.
gosh.
Yeah,
HubSpot and Zoom and Calendly and whatever, you add these up and it's like, dude, our Zap account got to a point where I think it was like $8,000 a month. And I was like, what is happening? And I literally was like, what is happening that I'm paying Zap $100,000 a month for what is likely like this happened and this happened, but because we do so much volume everywhere, it just ran up the bill. That's exactly what it was. We built a custom coaching analytics tool in the back end so we could audit that our coaches were fulfilling on, because we had so many coaches. So we were auditing if that like made sense and like, or if what they were doing, if they were saying this, it was AI in like layered through, is the sentiment in there? Are they saying these things? Is the call length acceptable for what they should be for how, they have 70 calls. So you have 4,000 calls that'll happen 1-to-1 in a month. Then you have another 4,000, which is actually like 1,000 because then it's the group-ish version, right? Like it kind of like segments in. But you go across all these and it's like 5,000 plus calls that are going to happen just with clients. And then you're going to have 4,000 calls that are going to happen on sales. And all of these are existing within Zoom. You have your like cloud recording build. Where are you going to store those? How are you going to analyze all those? And then we have messaging and all this. We're trying to like source of truth it in like 3 sources of truth. And I look back and it's like that one thing did 600,000 zaps of our 3 million. And I'm like, and all it is like pulling from here, reformatting a little and pushing to here. So I'm thankfully on X and all this stuff. And I see N8N and I see this, whatever. I literally send it over to a senior tech dev. He's like, oh, that's cool. And like, love him. Like he crushes it. But like where our level of awareness is like our personal best is our personal best is their own personal best. We have all only done this by doing it ourselves, not by learning it elsewhere and implementing it here, right? Or coming with the experience in. It's like we're just learning as we go. So he moves it over and we save like $4,000 a month in Zap in like an hour and a half. It's like,
what do you guys host on? What do you guys host your coaching on?
We have to use platform. Yeah, we use Trainerize still, which is a dinosaur. So we use Trainerize for the fulfillment level side of things because we need the exercises, we need the plug with the macronutrient and like the meal tracking, we need the habits, we need those. And now there's a bunch of these other ones, but I have 4,000 people that are in it and getting, call it 5, call it 50 a day. I'll never tell, but how many are coming in a day right now? And then we're gonna have this group style thing, and is it gonna be on the same platform? So you're gonna have 2 different product lines inside one fulfillment tool. And you're never going to have that inside HubSpot. What?
That's what the coaching happens to, the one-on-ones?
So the one-on-ones will then happen through Zoom, though. So you have Zoom. So on the fulfillment stack, you have Zoom, you have Calendly to connect them, you have Jotform for check-ins and submissions in inbound. You have Trainerize for the fulfillment. You have Drive for the storage of some of the stuff. You have another like offshoot one that we actually just canceled, but you have those. And then it's like, where does AI layer in? And does it devalue it if AI is going to the consumer? Likely, right? Because you're paying this high ticket and it's like, oh, I could just work with AI, which you can't, but like you can feed it. So can you make efficiency where someone could have 50 clients and now they can have 100 because of how efficiently they can operate? Like there's all these questions. I don't know. It's fun. But if you look at because where this came from is the comparison to what Iman was saying with the model of like making 3 or 5. The level of ease now that could happen and just like how simple and easy that looks. And I know it's difficult for a lot of people, I'm sure, who like haven't done that, but versus this and the intricacies and the HR department and the PTO and like, dude, like what's your goal? What's your goal? And I will hammer that home as many times as possible. Cause if you want to make $3 to $5 million a year, just like go do that. And like, it's perfectly fine where it is. And you can even push it and go much further to, the likes of how you're doing it, where you're keeping these costs and lean in alignment. And yes, you're using paid to fuel it, but you solve a couple more things around LTV and around that. And your 2X on a company basis is a 10X. Yeah. And it's like, why wouldn't you? Why? I mean, you can push it and stay lean, which we have not at all.
Like, our net margins have always been very healthy, and it has allowed me to like take out a lot of cash from the business. So like I can do things like invest and stuff like that, where I don't feel like I need to have that exit. Like it's not, I don't have to go that, you know what I mean?
Yeah. Because you can just pile it in there. You are smart on a personal level. I made a video on this. It's like vanity metrics, I think is what I called it. But it's like, I say, we're at 74 million now. So it's like 74 in total cash. That is before fees, which are, your couple points. That is before your refunds, which for us is we're extremely liberal with those, with refunds and that whole policy. It's like if someone comes in, it's not a good fit. If they have something that happens like right after the fact, they have a disagreement, like made a decision without a spouse or something, like we want them to actually make that decision. But if there's then an issue where it like actually like no, get out. Like, we give money, we give back to that. So before refunds, then it hits here. Now you have your sales, which is, 10 to 20% depending on your stack. You have your fulfillment costs, which on one-to-one coaching is another 20 points. You have your marketing, which 30% if you're on a 3X. And like now you're sitting here. And that's what is now contribution to overhead. And it's like, what is your overhead stack? And then all of a sudden you have W2, so your whole team is 20% more. And then you have all this stuff and it shakes out and call it, a good online biz, we'll just say is 30, right? A good one. The amazing ones and the organic ones are 60. And somewhere in that range, and you start to get scary when you're like under 20, in my opinion, right? In those ranges. Then, for our example, you have partners. So you have multiple owners because they were co-founders. I came in as a co-owner. It's different than co-founder, right? Then, once it hits you. So your beauty of this, and I don't know your whole stack, but like, as a 100% owner. So you have all this that happens, and then it hits you. Then how you have chosen to live as a person is in a tax-free zone. So now you keep, a majority of that or whatever the math is. We lose then 30, 40, you can play that game, but 30, 40% if you're US, just rough math. Then now how do you live your lifestyle? And it's like, what actually hits to where you're going to put it in an S&P and do that? It's like, it's not 71 or $74 million, right? And like so many people are like, oh, they made 74 million. It's like, bro, I just said right here, let's call it 20 that hits profit. Then you have partners and then you have your personal like tax. And it's like, or you just crank it high and like, for what? For all of this work, for 120 people working 30 to 70 hours a week, depending on the person and the time and the season and what's hot and broken and whatever. I don't know. It's what's the goal? It's what's the goal?
Is that like when you started, did you think about that at all? Or has it just been like,
no,
it's just been,
I still barely think about that. I still am like, I'm such in the hamster wheel of my own creation. And like, I always send to my friends, they're like, oh, let's go do this. And I'm like, no, like I'm at this desk 16 hours a day right now, more. No joke. 5 a.m. to, I finished that video last night it was ready and published at like 10:30, 11 p.m. And like I went to the gym for 45 and I'll eat in between randomly on meetings or whatever. I have one directly after this, another one after that. Like, and I'm just go in this season on purpose. But when I started this, I was doing sales page builds for this company as one of 2 or 3 things I was doing. We had a conversation on how do we take this to 10 million, which sounded insane at the time because Ovens was like the poster child and he was doing 30 mil. And then it came out and he even said that they were doing $1 million, or I think it was $1 million or 3 million, 1 to 3 million in profit on 30 because he got an office and did this whole thing and like was ramping scale and then went into the more organic side of things because he was all paid and that was a huge portion of it and then huge team. Exactly what we did, right? We went from 10 to 30 and our margins, like percentage, went like this and the dollars went like this.
Yeah.
Right.
I think
from
that's
10,
like
10 to 30.
I think that's the best piece of advice you can give that like someone who's starting can take from this is like exactly as you said, what's your goal? Because once you start and get into one of these things, it's very hard to like change your mind 3 years.
Correct.
2 years.
And like,
it's almost impossible.
And what happens when it goes wrong?
Yeah.
And like actually goes wrong. Like you bleed out goes wrong because you don't understand things or you get to a point and like, what, you have 3,000 coaches or 3,000 clients and you need to service on contracts and like, did you put away the cash? Because that's not info. That's not cash in, cash out, a login access and like, pay your $299 Kajabi bill so they can get it forever for lifetime. And like, you just have to bite that. It's the servicing of clients. And did you put the cash in a bucket over here for the 2.5 million you owe to coaches over the next 12 months you already accepted cash on? Is it like these different things? And that the company that we're referring to my understanding, fulfilled on all those contracts and halted everything else in order to do that. So they had to put X amount of bucket of cash to continue to pay team even after accepting no new clients.
Yeah.
Right. So it's like if they didn't put that away, and again, no shade on them at all. It's just like that's the model. That's the same thing we're in. We're like we were having these massive decreases. We're paying, the payroll is up because it's paying for people who we already acquired within the last 12 months. So the payroll is, essentially staying here. Every time you bring someone new in, it's 1,000 or 3,000, whatever you pay a coach over a year that you need to just put in a bucket, and you're already at break even.
So if you decided that today you wanted to like stop the business, like you have minimum 6 months of servicing people still. Where like if you have an e-commerce business,
11 months.
You stop shipping products tomorrow, you ship out everything in the next week or two, and you're pretty much done.
Yeah, so exactly. You keep your email, you keep your Gmail access so you can respond to your CS stuff and make sure everything's whatever and like, some final things, but you can shut down the whole front end overnight.
And you don't have any really costs. That's it.
Yeah.
Other than like softwares or whatever. But yeah, like exactly as I said, when you get the cash, you have to pay. You've accepted fulfillment on that for the next 6 months, sometimes even 12 months.
Yeah. And the original ovens model was lifetime access, and that's how he taught everyone. That's how we sold it. So I go into this in some of the videos, but initially when we moved to a call funnel, we sold like the classic Kajabi group coaching through group, like coaching calls, not group coaching calls, which is very different than like one person who has a cohort of 30 to 50 or whatever style thing, and like multiple cohorts, and they can have up to 500 that like go to them. But
Yeah.
it's 3 coaching calls a week that are 2 hours long, a community access, and a course. And we sold that for 1,000 and up to 1,500 over the phone, and we were just doing volume. And that's how we did. But we sold that over the phone because we didn't know how to sell direct to card.
Closes.
So
Yeah,
we were
10%, 150. A close?
at that point. I think it was 8. I want to say at that point. But they were doing so much volume, and we had closers making 300 grand a year, 400 grand a year. We were just
Really
that's how
on
we did, yeah,
on a 1,500 offer. That's crazy.
yeah. And we did. That's how we did 10 and 12 million was on that offer. And we didn't even, again, we started with a low ticket that we didn't have. And as we all know now, and so obvious, is we didn't have the ascension ladder built. So there was no ascension. So it was like the economics had to be on an MRR basis, basically. So it's like, how did the MRR feed LTV to CAC? Like that, it was that formula. And we didn't know how that operated. And we didn't have enough data around it to know what it was. Then we went to info. We started selling it at $500 over the phone when we started. And then like within 2 months upped it to 1,000, and then 3 months later upped it to 1,500, and pay plans and all that kind of stuff. I mean, if I go back in our Stripe, it's like our MRR through pay plans was like 500 and something grand, like just slaying in that thing. And we did 10 and then 12 just selling that.